Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Ware Brothers Podcast. We're coming at you on March 15th, 2022. Coming at you a couple days later than normal, but we'll be back onto our normal schedule here following up. Bro Jangles, what's going on?
Bro Jangles?
Yeah.
My bro Migo. Actually,
Hey,
I had one and then I forgot what it was going to be. Damn it.
it happens. It happens to the best of us.
Anyways, yeah. We are coming at you a little bit late. That's because we have a great show ahead today. We have some awesome stuff to cover. I've probably been looking forward to this episode more than anyone we've done yet.
Yeah, this is exciting. This is
Ken,
great.
do you know why?
Is it about a little topic, something called RPGs?
Yes, rocket propelled grenades.
And I knew it.
Go. Yeah, no, role-playing games. We are counting down our favorite, just to clarify, this is not our opinion of the best, but our favorite top 10 RPGs. We've composed a list each. Neither one of us knows what the other one's list is. So we're going to bounce them back and forth a little bit between each other once we cover some news and games of the week. And I know you're excited. I'm excited. Let's go.
I just want to clarify because we haven't talked about this yet. The on my list, the games that I have listed, I have only listed RPGs that I have actually played through and beaten.
Yes, same here.
Because I've played a lot of different RPGs that I loved, but I've never actually beaten. So every game on my list are games that I have actually played through 100% and beaten.
Ditto. Same for me. All right. Okay. Glad we cleared that up.
Yeah.
So let's how's your week been? You have a good weekend?
Week's good. Got the new heating system in. That is amazing. Feels wonderful. I highly recommend anyone in the Northeast or in cold climates or even in hot climates who need AC. Mini splits are amazing. We got 4 put in to our house and it has made a world of a difference. Live free heating and cooling. Just shout out to a New Hampshire based company. Not sponsored, but they did the work, they did the installs, and they did a fantastic job. So if you're in New Hampshire, Live Free Heating and Cooling, highly recommend them. How's your week going though?
My week's going good. I was glad to hear you got those in because before I knew you guys had a fireplace, had a few safety hazards, and whenever I would stay over, I slept very close to that chimney. So I'm very glad to hear you have these mini slits installed.
Yes.
Yes.
Not a hazard anymore.
Living next to a tinder box.
Yes. Well, if I can quote the man who came out to inspect the chimney, he used the words, what was it? Oh, yes, jet fuel, essentially, is what he said was lining the chimney. And one small spark would just cause the whole house to go up in flames. So we do not use the fireplace anymore.
Ken goes to light a candle and your wife's like, no. Whole house. You're like, oh, got fire insurance. Oh, but I didn't get the jet fuel insurance.
So living much more comfortably now, which is fantastic.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, my weekend went well. Just did the usual chores around the house, did some cooking, laundry, cleaning, dishes, the good stuff.
The good stuff.
Well,
perfect. Well, what do you say we get into the news? I'm looking at the news that we have, and we got some big stories coming.
We do.
Why don't you hit us with the first one here?
So my favorite piece of news from the week, there's a franchise been around for a number of years, crossed over into pop culture back in the 80s, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've studied martial arts for years, and part of the reason I got into martial arts is I was a huge fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So they have a new collection coming out called the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Collection. No, that's not Kawasaki Collection. Cowabunga Collection. And basically, this is going to comprise of 13 previous titles from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Just some of the big ones to mention. It's going to have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arcade Edition, Manhattan Project, everyone's favorite, Turtles in Time, the Hyperstone Heist, tournament, bunch of the tournament fighter ones. And it's pretty cool because they're gonna have co-op abilities. So if two people have the same game, you can jump online and actually play together like you were sitting in your friend's living room back in the 80s and early 90s. It's coming out on the PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox, S and X series, the one, and the Switch. I am so excited for this collection to come out.
I am so excited myself. When I saw this announcement, all I could think about was, oh my God, Taylor and I are going to be able to play through Turtles in Time. And we've never talked about it before, but if at some point, if we ever get into like streaming on Twitch or something, that would be a fun game for us to stream and play through on Twitch or something.
You're cowabunga right.
Cowabunga.
Hey, who's your favorite turtle?
Leonardo. Got to go with the blue.
Leonardo. Oh yeah, your favorite color is blue.
Yeah,
you know
of course, man. And he has the two swords. Yeah, Michelangelo.
Yes. Why is he my favorite?
Because Taylor, for those of you who don't know, because of Michelangelo, Taylor, when he was younger, he took lessons on how to use nunchucks.
Oh yeah, they're the best. I never knocked myself out with them. It was amazing. Started with foam ones, progressed to wood nunchucks. Yeah, love nunchucks. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, Taylor's a badass.
Something like that. So yeah, that was the top of our news list. I am so excited for this to come out. A couple other pieces of news came across. For those of you who are fans of the God of War series, like many of these games, are making the jump to TV. It's pretty cool. They're going to be joining Amazon Prime, coming out later on. Basically, it's going to follow the conclusions of the original trilogy. Basically, going to be joining along with The Witcher that they turned into a series. So this should be pretty good. Did you ever play the God of War series?
So yeah, interesting thing with the God of War. First off, this is actually the first that I'm hearing of the God of War TV series. I think that is awesome. I think God of War would make a fantastic TV series. I've only seen season 1 of The Witcher. A little lukewarm on The Witcher, but that's neither here nor there. But God of War, I think, has a very good very good probability of being a successful TV show. To answer your question as far as playing the games, played just a little bit of the original God of War. Have not played through the God of War 1, 2, or 3 as far as like beat the games, but for the PlayStation 4, I did play and beat the newest God of War that they pretty much reinvented the series, and that game was incredible. Just absolutely blew me away. Really, really, really good game. So I'm excited to see how the God of War TV series does.
Yeah, I know a little bit about the game. I've seen tons of like gameplay of it. Looks pretty amazing. I've never had a chance to play it, but yeah, I've seen season 1 and 2 of The Witcher. Yeah, it moves a little slow for my taste.
You watched season 2?
Yeah, I watched it right around the Christmas time. I started through season 2, but I'm excited for this one just because the game itself looks pretty cool. A lot of slicing and dicing.
Have they announced any of the cast?
No. Well, I don't think I haven't read anything about it. They may have some stuff out there. I just read that they announced that it was a greenlit for Amazon.
Gotcha.
So it'll be pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, we've seen a couple of. I'll be interested to see if, depending on how the TV series goes, if you're going to see more transition into movies. There are some amazing franchises out there that I think could do an incredible job on TV and movies. So now that you have The Witcher out, they've announced God of War. The Halo series is coming out shortly. I think that's going to be out here anytime now as well. So I'm super excited. They've had some franchises that transitioned to movies have done well. The newest Mortal Kombat movie did really, really well. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this one plays out.
For sure.
I'll definitely check it out. Some more news we talked about a few weeks ago, the release of Lost Ark over here in the Western Hemisphere. With the introduction of that, they've surpassed 20 million players. They said they had 4.7 million players join in the first 3 days of its release here in America, Europe, and Australia. So
that's great. Great success for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always like to see games doing well, even if it's not a game I play or I'm interested in. That's just great for the industry to see this because it keeps designers and coders and engineers all in the system making games that I probably do like that may not have ever made if other games didn't do well at the same time.
Yeah, if it was back in like my early 20s when I wasn't married and had a full-time job and all that, man, I could really sink my teeth into some of these games. I played a decent, I say a decent amount, when Lost Ark first came out, put a handful of hours in, a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun with it. Glad to see that so many people are playing it. But certainly with Elden Ring and Destiny 2 and only so much time to spread around for different games, haven't played Lost Ark really since that first weekend that it dropped, but I'm glad that I did play it for the few hours that I did, just to sink my teeth into it and see what it was like, and very happy with it. So yeah, great, good success for Lost Ark. Glad people are liking it and a lot of people are playing.
Yeah, I feel like I would do a lot more gaming if sleep wasn't required to keep the body
Sure.
going. I mean,
Absolutely.
just 6, 7, 8 hours a day that I'm just wasting with my eyes closed, and I could be playing video games.
It is funny. I do know that about you, that you are someone who hates sleep. You hate that you have to sleep.
Hate I do. There are so many nights I go to bed and I'm exhausted and I'm like, sleep. And then I'm like, what kind of lazy piece of crap am I that I'm just laying in bed with my eyes closed? I was like, I could be doing something productive with my life, like playing video games.
Well,
But
hey,
yeah.
give it time. Elon will make something where you can play video games in your sleep. Just give it time.
Your mom tells a story about how I apparently tried to do that when I was little because we were driving the car and I fell asleep and all I kept doing was going, "Jump, Mario, jump." So apparently I was sleeping trying to play video games at the same time.
There you go.
Yeah. So, leading into our next story of the week, dude, you can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't.
So I read that now we all know that COVID is serious. There's been a lot of businesses going under, people struggling. Apparently, this man has just taken it to another level. A man was arrested for using COVID relief payments to buy a rare shiny Charizard Pokemon card.
What else are you gonna use the relief payments for?
I know, right? So he pretended to be a small business owner and spent almost $60,000
Oh
out of
my
his
goodness.
$85,000 loan on this card. I'm just like, seriously, I can think of better things to spend. Maybe he thought it was an investment opportunity and he could flip it, make some money, pay back the loan. No one would care. But yeah, so now he's gonna be I don't think he's actually serving jail time, but he's under probation. He has to pay back the entire loan and an additional $10,000 on top of that.
God bless him for trying. No,
right?
What? I have.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Apparently,
I guess so. That's his mentality. Because, but
he's seen Talladega Nights one too many times.
What Charizard card is to spend that much money on a
it's a shiny Charizard.
I'm sorry. You're right. Shiny Charizard.
Thank you.
That is wild, though. I mean, again, if I was a multi-millionaire, I don't even know if I'd spend that much on a card. But if anyone out there wants to put that to the test, make me a multi-millionaire, and we'll find out if I would or not.
I recently heard somebody talking about money doesn't. I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and Joe Rogan had Michael Bisping on there, former UFC middleweight champion of the world, who is hilarious, by the way. And they were just talking about having money and how money doesn't buy happiness. And he goes, "But you know what? It relieves a lot of stress, and that makes me happy." I'm like, good point, Bisping. Good point. Yeah, I was just like, I could think of better things to spend money on. Moving on. So we had talked, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago about the upcoming EVO 2022 lineup and how Smash Brothers was not going to be part of it. So they have released their full lineup of games that are going to be on there. Just running through quickly. Street Fighter V Champion Edition, Guilty Gear Strive, Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate, Tekken 7, the King of Fighters 15, Melty Blood type Lumina, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, and Skullgirls Second Encore. There we go. I think I covered the list. How many of those have you heard of?
Pretty much all of them, except I've never heard of Melty Blood or
Grand Blue Fantasy.
Nope, I've heard of Grand Blue Fantasy. Skullgirls Second Encore. I don't think I've heard of that one. But yeah, no, everything else I've heard of. My favorite out of all those is probably the Dragon Ball Fighters, because I don't know. Have you played Dragon Ball Fighters?
I've played a slew of DBZ fighting games. I don't know if I played that one specifically.
This is the newest one. That's the newest. I do.
I think I saw you play it.
It's a like I'm terrible at fighting games. I am not. Fighting games are not my forte at all. But that is obviously both of us big fans of Dragon Ball Z, just Dragon Ball franchise in general. So that for me that was just a must buy because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So.
Couple little side notes beyond that. For anybody who has a Switch, they've added F-Zero X to the N64 Switch library. I played F-Zero when it was on the Super Nintendo. I've never played the N64 version. I'll probably check it out at some point. And then Nintendo also announced that they were delaying the release of Advanced Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp due to the war in Ukraine. I kind of understand the logic here. It's about tanks and invasions. But seriously? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Too close to home that you see a cell shaded strategy
cartoony
game. Yeah, I don't know. I get it, I guess, but yeah.
I don't think it needed to.
And last piece of note, this will be up your alley. I'm not sure if you'd seen this yet. So Elden Ring speed run, world record was broken twice in the same day. Both were sub an hour. And then I read today, did you hear this? Now it's below 30 minutes.
That is, yeah.
So this game that you can spend 100+ hours playing, and
easy.
Somebody smoked it in less than 30 minutes now. Crazy.
Yeah. So I have not beaten the game yet. I took a step away because I've been playing Destiny 2 and getting ready for the raid and trying to do all that. So at some point in time, I will sink my teeth in again to Elden Ring. But to hear that someone speed running is a huge thing just in the video gaming community. So to see someone do it in half an hour, that is incredible. Once I beat the game, whoever knows how long, I'll probably go back and watch the speed run because I'm fascinated by how that works. Because I know when it comes to speed runs, a lot of different speed runs are, some are done with glitches and or coming glitching like out of the map and like coming back to like another area and to like skip different things and stuff like that. So I don't know if this speed run is done using kind of glitches like that, or if it's like a true legit actual speed run. It'd be interesting to see. But still, quite an amazing feat for a game like that, and for a game like Elden Ring. Anyone who's played FromSoft games, played it in the Dark Souls games, very difficult games. So hats off to you, buddy. Whoever did it.
Yes, speed runs interest me. The only one I've ever I think like watched. I saw somebody a little while back do like the original Super Mario Brothers speed run. It was like 4 minutes and change or something like that. Crazy. And they interest me. They don't interest me to the point where I'm like, oh, I want to speed run a game. I'm too much of I'm a collector. When I do a game, I have to do everything. RPGs take me forever because I have to inspect everything, talk to everybody. It drives you nuts when you watch me play an RPG. But I'm somebody I'm 100% completion, except for Breath of the Wild. Those Korok seeds, I mean, seriously, 900 of those suckers?
To get golden poop.
Golden poop. I'm sorry. That's the one thing. I think I got like 400 or 500 of them when I played through it, but that was the only part of the game I didn't do 100% on.
I think you got enough to max out your inventory, right?
Yeah. I got
Yeah.
over. I got the amount I needed without having to get golden poop. Should be everybody's goal in life. Who needs golden poop?
Now, just because you just brought up Breath of the Wild,
Golden poop.
Just
Oh.
curious. Do you consider Breath of the Wild an RPG?
I knew this. So I looked at lists of RPGs when I was trying to put my list together, and I saw there was some that had it on there, and I'm like, no, get out of here. You're not an
Yeah.
RPG. I
You're a
couldn't
classic
include it.
adventure game.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, it just
It has elements. It had more RPG
Yes.
elements,
I
but
look at it like
I
if
would
you're
not
not
classify it.
leveling up, or like that's kind of a defining trait of an RPG. Is you have to
Exactly.
level up. There's gonna be magic or spells of some kind, things that heal you in that process. No, it's an open world adventure game. It's like Mario 64, in my opinion.
And
But
so that's I
more
will
to it.
clarify. I kept Destiny off the list as well because
Okay.
that one would be a little bit easier to make the case that it's an RPG, but I didn't feel right having it on there. So
All right.
so
Fair
I
enough.
left Destiny off. I left Destiny off.
A little taste of what we got coming up, folks.
That's right.
You want to jump into our new games of the week coming out?
Yes. So new games of the week this
Uh-oh.
week are
And it's
we will start off with a brand new game no one's ever heard of.
What?
Grand Theft Auto 5. Whoa.
Grand Theft what?
So it's just getting the Skyrim treatment of we're just gonna make sure it's on everything from cell phones to tablets to walkie talkies. You can play this game literally everywhere. So
Neo Geo.
pretty much. So Grand Theft Auto 5 is coming out March 15th. Finally coming out for the next gen consoles on PS5, Xbox Series X and S. It's more of the same. It's Grand Theft Auto 5. It's been around for 10 years now. But I do know that they're working on Grand Theft Auto 6 as well as Elder Scrolls 6. But anyway,
what more could you say about Grand Theft Auto? If you aren't familiar with what you do in that game, you're probably not listening to this podcast.
no.
Yeah.
So next is Phantom Breaker. Omnia comes out today, March 15th, for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. So not for next gen consoles, but it's a fighting game. You have 22 available fighters. It's an update on Phantom Breaker, previously only released in Japan back in 2011. So if you're a fan of fighting games,
it took them a while, I guess, to get this update. Only 10 years in the making.
wait, hey, you know what? It would have been out sooner, but COVID, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what it was.
We can just blame everything on that. Next up, we have The Cruel King and Great Hero. I like the name. It's comes out today, also March 15th, for the PS4 and Switch. RPG about you who aspires to be a great hero like her father, a dragon king. She's the only human in a world filled with monsters.
So when I was looking this one up, this looks a little interesting. It's like a storybook. But yeah, you as a human, and apparently her father is a dragon, and she wants to go on this adventure in this world filled with all these monsters. I may have to check this out. I'll have to watch a little bit of gameplay on this and see what it's like, but it intrigued me.
Yeah, that's it. I like the sound of it. It's a little cool. Next is Paradise Killer. Comes out tomorrow, March 16th, for the PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series X, S, and 1. Out previously in 2020 on PC and Switch. Have you heard of this one at all?
I had not, but yeah, they're basically just updating it for next-gen consoles.
Cool.
Yeah.
Next is Tunic. Comes out March 16th for Xbox Series X and S, 1, and PC. After that is Anno
Mutation
comes out March 17th for the PS4 and PC.
I see people lining up to get this one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Next is Monster Energy Supercross 5. So dirt bike game, I'm guessing. I didn't know that there was a 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Mopeds. Can you imagine a moped racing game? Everybody tops out at 30 miles an hour.
Dude, mopeds are awesome. All right,
all
Mr. Motorcycle.
all the tracks are like an eighth of a mile long and takes you an hour to do it.
This game is awesome. I'll never get a speeding ticket.
That's right. I'm sorry. Moving on.
No, it's okay. So it comes out the 17th for PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series XS and 1, and the PC. After that is Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. Comes out March 17th for the PS4, Switch, and PC. All you Persona fans out there, which many people would list Persona games in their top RPGs of all time. Very, very popular RPGs. But Persona 4 Arena is obviously a different take. I believe it's more of a fighting game opposed to like your normal Persona type game.
Makes sense.
Then we have Shredders on March 17th, Xbox Series X and S and PC. And then Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin comes out March 18th, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox XS and 1, and PC. This is a very interesting one. I'll be curious to see how this does. Might pick it up if it goes on sale at some point, but looks like a really cool Final Fantasy game. Have you watched any videos on Final Fantasy Origin?
Nope. What is it?
Yes.
How's it tied into the original series?
So supposedly, so you're fighting Chaos, which is the final boss, like in Final Fantasy 1, I believe. So this is supposed to, as it says, Final Fantasy Origin. This is supposedly supposed to kick off the origin of the Final Fantasy franchise.
Okay.
So it would be pretty interesting, but this could absolutely be wrong, but this was just my take when I watched the trailer back when they first showed, I think back in like this past E3 time, around there when it was first shown. But it almost has that Infinity Blade vibe where it's like you go through, but then like you start back over and like kind of like work your way further and further. You know what I mean? Each
yeah.
It almost seemed like it had that vibes, but maybe it doesn't. But it kind of had that Infinity Blade style vibe.
Cool.
So those are your upcoming games, this week. So pretty interested. Like I said, out of all these, definitely the Final Fantasy Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin is the one I'm most interested to see. But with that being said, I as much as we're clowning around about Grand Theft Auto 5 coming out again, I bet it's going to look awesome on the next gen consoles. So for anyone who has a next gen console and likes Grand Theft Auto, I would definitely pick that up.
Dude, I am so excited for our deep dive.
Yes. So without further ado, we are getting into our deep dive of our top 10 favorite RPGs, and we will be listing them in ascending order. So we'll be starting at 10 and working down
up to number 1. Sure.
We're gonna start at 10 and then work to 1. Whether that's up or down, however you see it in your head.
You want to go side to side? You're welcome to. And again,
that's fine too.
Just to clarify, these are our favorites. By no means, there are going to be a couple on this list that are in terms of how amazing they are, but some of them I can play over and over again. Love them. Yeah. We're going to kick the segment off with an honorable mentions. So my list originally started with 20 games. I had to narrow it down to 10. I had a couple of honorable mentions. Ken had a few more than me. First on my honorable mention list, Evo Search for Eden.
Wow.
So for those of you, for who don't know, I played this a couple of years ago. Came out on the Super Nintendo, released way back in July of 93. Basically, it's a game about evolution. You start as a fish and you slowly grow into a bigger and bigger creature. It takes place over the course of 1 billion years, and you just evolve throughout the game. You make it onto land, you're a little amphibian, and then you get bigger and bigger and stronger. Pretty cool. I liked it. It's on my honorable mentions list. If nobody's checked it out, we may be discussing it in an upcoming episode. But Evo, Search for Eden, highly recommend. 2 on my honorable mentions list, River City Ransom.
You have that as okay. Okay.
I know, right? So you level up, you buy attack items,
Its
Yeah,
skills, absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
there. That's why it's not my top 10. It's an honorable mention. River City Ransom, I'm sure everybody's heard of this, for the Nintendo Entertainment System, released in April of '89. Basically, you're just two high schoolers fighting gangs across the city. It's very Double Dragon style fighting, and then you can purchase upgrades throughout to increase your kicking, your punching. Always loved it. I've played through it a handful of times. And last on my honorable mentions list, one that I recently beat just about a month ago, Paper Mario. Uh, I really like this. Basically, as a spiritual successor to Super Mario RPG. It released way back in August of 2000, and it was a game that I wasn't into for years. I finally got into it, and I really enjoyed it. Had to put it in my honorable mentions list. Ken, go with your honorable mentions. What do you got?
So I have five. I have five honorable mentions. Like you, I started out. I had over 20 games myself, and it was so hard to narrow them down. But I got to start number 15. I love Golden Sun. It's probably one of the best RPGs for the Game Boy Advanced.
Yes.
As far as an original, like brand new franchise for Nintendo, it was just such a great real. I just thought it really hit the ball out of the park.
Mhm.
The Jin, you like so you know your normal RPG, right? You got your cast of characters, your party, you end up getting four party members, and you have these little Jin type elemental little like spirit
Spirit.
beings. And
Yeah.
so I think it was like four elements. You had fire, water, ice, and wind, maybe. And you could equip up to four of these guys to each character, but you could like
Mhm.
mix and match if you want like one guy to have like two fires and then an earth and a water. And like I just thought it was a really great system. The different spells and powers, really cool, really great for the Game Boy Advance. Really fun game.
Yeah, that's a cool game. You introduced me to it years ago. I never heard of it, and you're like, "Oh, you got to check this out." Um, yeah, I think it's a great choice. That's a great game. There's something I was going to mention about that. Yeah, the gin I thought was a cool aspect of that. It's just like a small little tweak uh, to the system. Now, are you counting one and two? Because there's more. There's three total, but two were out originally for the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, so I have listed Golden Sun as just the first one, just because I've played through the first one. I've played the second one as well, and
Mhm.
it picks up. Number two continues the story of one.
Okay.
I actually have never played through two to completion. I've played through
Likewise.
one all the way,
Yeah.
so that's why I just have Golden Sun, the first one on the
Good
list.
choice. Good choice.
So, but for honorable mention, so second honorable mention is Kingdom Hearts. I love a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. Just absolutely love the series, but didn't could not find its way into the top 10. But continuing right along, just because this is just honorable mentions, I have the very first original but remake for the Game Boy Advance, Final Fantasy. So it's the first Final Fantasy game, but they remastered it for the Game Boy Advance,
Cool.
and played through that. Love that. I love just such a classic game. I love the class system on it, and how you could, once you get to a certain part of the game, you could like upgrade your classes. Like the fighters could become knights, and then the red, white, and black mages could become red, white, and black wizards. The thief could become a ninja, and then the monk. It just really cool. Started, kicked off RPGs in a major way. Really great game. This
Cool.
one, this one is gonna upset you for being an
Uh-oh.
honorable mention,
Oh my,
but for
what do we got?
me, Super Mario RPG
You're dead to
is
me.
is
You're
number
dead to me.
12 for
Oh,
me.
oh my goodness.
Love it as an RPG, but at the end of the day, for me, Mario, it just doesn't beat out my other ones on the list. And then for
Okay.
the last one, another one that you're probably gonna slap me for,
Uh,
Final Fantasy 7. I have it number 11 for me.
what?
Yeah. Yep. out of
Okay.
other
Alright,
ones on
fair
the
enough.
list. Only because I don't have it on here, but I loved and I played through Final Fantasy VII Remake that came out last year or 2 years ago,
Mhm.
and that's not complete yet because it's just part one. But
That's what I was gonna ask you
I yeah,
about.
so part one is out. Played through that. I it just I just like it. It's Final Fantasy VII. It's the story with some added stuff to it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I prefer that the new combat. Obviously I love turn-based RPGs, but as far as Final Fantasy VII goes, that new one will replace the old Final Fantasy VII for me, only because I did not play Final Fantasy VII right when it released. I was a little bit older, so I don't quite have that same real nostalgia as like
mhm.
playing it right
Well,
when it released.
younger. You were younger when it came out, not older, right?
I'm sorry, I was younger when it came
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I before I actually played Final Fantasy VII,
You
like
were
the
older.
original, I was a little bit older. Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you now.
So
Uh,
so Golden Sun, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, Super Mario RPG, and Final Fantasy VII. Those are my five honorable mentions.
that's good list. Kingdom Hearts is the only one of those I hadn't had any experience with. I've seen you play it. I know you love Kingdom Hearts. I at some point would like to play through it because it does look pretty sweet. Side note and question for you: I was doing some research on next week's episode, and I came across a game that I vaguely remember that I think you had for the Game Boy. Did you have one called Survival Kids? About these kids on
Yes.
an island. Okay.
Yes.
I was doing some research on something and I came across this game Survival Kids and I saw like a screenshot. I'm like, oh, this looks so familiar, but I
That's
couldn't. Okay,
we add that to the list for next week.
okay, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So we cleared out our honorable mentions. I will. I guess I will kick off. So I'm gonna kick off with my number 10. I'm gonna bounce over to Ken for his number 10. Then Ken will do
And then we'll
9,
discuss.
and I'll go back. Yeah, exactly. All
Yeah.
right. Drum roll, please. Number 10. This is a game I don't know if you've ever played it or not. Final Fantasy VII.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. So I did play the original all the way through. Not well. I played the original version from PS1. Originally came out in '97. There was, and if you don't know this, there was a remake that came out in 2020. It was made by Square. They've done a handful of okay, decent RPGs. But basically, some interesting stuff in this before I jump into this. Development started in '94, originally planned for the Nintendo. But then when Sony came out with the disc-based system, a Square jump shipped, and they're like, "There's so much more that we can do with this disc-based system. So it holds way more storage." It really uh, pioneered the 3D cinema effects that you see. They had like full video. It was one of the first games to have it. It was really amazing, but it was pretty cool. They actually came out with a whole 2D prototype when they were developing the game, and they actually were working on Chrono Trigger when they first started working on this. They paused Chrono Trigger so they could work on Final Fantasy. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is a huge, huge undertaking. They had an $80 million budget for this game, and over 100 people were working on it. And it was a massive success. Over 13 million copies sold, and at the time, it was the most expensive video game ever made.
I believe it.
$80 million, money well spent.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that helped propel. I mean, Final Fantasy was already such a huge franchise, but Final Fantasy VII, I mean, just cemented it for
Yeah,
years to come. I mean, it's yeah.
yeah, especially here in the States. The earlier ones, there was a couple that never even made it over here when you had the whole naming scheme of like 4 was number 2 and 6 was number 4 or 6 and number 3. Um, in the West, it just wasn't very popular until 7 came out. And again, that's why he sold over 13 million copies. Huge, huge game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Number
absolutely.
10
Well,
on my list.
what was your favorite party that you went with in seven?
I honestly don't remember. I played through this for the first time 8, maybe 9 years ago. So it's been a while since I played through it. I just loved how expansive it was. It was a huge game. Loved it. The one thing that was interesting is so there were two optional bosses you could fight before you fought the main boss. Well,
Mhm.
I grinded and leveled the crap out of my guys to fight these two optional bosses, which are fairly difficult. I beat them, but didn't realize the actual boss at the end of the game is 10 times easier than these two optional bosses. And I
Yeah,
rolled right through this guy because my guys were so high level to fight the optional bosses. Yeah, but Final Fantasy VII is in my top 10. It partly because I enjoy playing it, but I think there's some mystique and just aura around this game because of how groundbreaking it was when it came out. That's part of why it makes my top 10.
absolutely. Nice. Good choice.
Thank you.
It,
Thank
it,
you.
it came so close to making mine,
I know
but
it was honorably mentioned.
it was. So my number 10 that beat out
Yes.
Final Fantasy 7, Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Ooh.
I adore this game.
You adore it?
I do. This game took
Adorable.
me by complete surprise. Well, I obviously it's for the Switch, and I had played Xenoblade Chronicles for the actually had it for the new 3DS. Never got to play it on the Wii. Had it for the new 3DS and didn't. I couldn't get into it for whatever reason. I just couldn't sink my teeth into it and play through it. So when Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out, I was looking for a new RPG, a new game to play. Saw Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and I was like, well, I didn't really like necessarily get to play the Xenoblade Chronicles, but watching some videos, the combat was a little bit different. So I was like, okay, what the heck? I'll give it a shot. From the very get-go, the combat, the storyline, there's a gotcha game aspect to it. So like you use these gems and you like pretty much equip like these different like beasts and stuff. Just the combat is so much different. It's a very more action oriented combat. And like I said, the storyline is fantastic. You can switch between like three different people in your party, and you're trying to like knock enemies in the air or like knock them down, topple them, like and do different combos. It's just really cool. And like I said, the storyline connects to the first game in a really major way, which was really cool to find out at the end. And that's might be spoilers. I don't know. Spoiler warnings, I guess. I apologize.
Too
Uh,
late. Oh well.
but yeah, completely took me completely by surprise. I thought it was really just a amazing RPG. Was very happy with it.
Nice. Yeah, I've never played any of the Xenoblade Chronicles. You've talked to me quite a bit recently about number two. I have it on my list of Switch to in my favorites. Do you know? I know the third one's going to be coming out here. Is it later this year?
Yeah, I believe it is. I believe
We
it's in the
covered it
fall.
a few weeks ago. Is the gameplay, would you say, more similar to two or one, or do you not know?
So they haven't released an actual like gameplay like
Oh, okay.
overview trailer, but from the looks of the trailer, it does look similar to two. Um, but we'll see. Because I said since playing two, I actually have purchased Xenoblade Chronicles One remaster for the
Mhm.
Switch. The same thing. I just could not get into it for
Oh,
whatever reason. So it is what it is. You do not need to have played one in order to play two.
okay.
They're their own standalone games. But like I said, I loved two. I just fantastic game, great
So I'm
time.
guessing Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is not higher on your list.
It is not, no.
Okay. Well, great game. I love the choice. Uh, what do you get at number 9?
Number 9,
Bum, bum, bum.
Fable.
Ooh, good
Yep.
choice. Good
And
choice.
to be specific, Fable, I believe it's called the Lost. No, not Fable 2, the Lost Chapters. So, uh, so they for the PC they came out with Fable: The Lost Chapters, and it's the first Fable game, but with some added like bonus content. Um, when I first played this game, we never had like an original Xbox, so when
Mhm.
Fable came out, that was always a big RPG that that I was like, oh, I want to play Fable. That looks so cool. Never got to play it until this came out for the PC. And since also I was always we were Nintendo guys, and I had a PlayStation 2. I had a PlayStation 1, but never had an Xbox, but also played on PC a lot. So when this game came out for PC, picked it up, and I thought Fable, the almost arcadey, cartoony design of it, but with like the graphic as far as like actual, like, like the blood and like it, but it still had a cartoony feel, but it just worked. And that um that right and wrong sort of, good or bad option, almost like a Mass Effect, sort of that Paragon Renegade system.
Yeah.
Fable had that with the kind of, what kind of hero are you going to be? Or are you going to be a hero? Or are you going to be a villain? And you could use, range, you could use swords and different weapons, and you could really customize your character. I thought it was a great RPG, really fond memories of it. And when I think of like a fantasy RPG, Fable, I thought did just a really great job of capturing that feel.
Yeah, I Fable's one I always wanted to get into and play. Again, I think you were playing it when I got back from my first season of baseball, or like before I left. I I played like maybe an hour or two of it when you had it, and it looked like a really cool game. And then just stuff came up, I never kept playing it. But I've heard you talk about it, how much you love it. Great choice in your top 10. It
Oh,
doesn't surprise me.
so you haven't played through Fable
No, no,
all
no.
the.
No,
Oh,
I played like the very beginning when you had it on PC, and then that was it. Yeah.
interesting. So yeah, so I've played through Fable and Fable 2. I never
Okay.
played Fable 3, but Fable 2 was okay. But Fable 1, that's sweet spot, beautiful, great game.
Maybe well, maybe it was the second one I played. One of the ones you had, I played like the beginning of for just a little bit, and then, like I said, stuff came up and never got to finish it. But I agree with you what you said about the graphics. It was graphically looked very very cool. Like you said, cartoonish, but also had like very adult themes to it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool, good choice. I like it.
So what's your number 9?
Number 9. I'm sticking with Square. Final Fantasy 6.
Okay.
Yep, which
Very
now was
popular.
Final Fantasy 3. Yeah, released in '94, Super Nintendo game. I was very upset to learn there's a remake coming on Steam this year. Should be out fairly soon. I was hoping it was coming out to other systems, but yeah. Final Fantasy 6, very iconic. It was a critical and commercial success when it came out. Over 3.5 million copies were sold. And the other thing that was cool about this one is it took advantage of Super Nintendo's Mode 7 3D effects with the map, where basically you fly around in a ship and everything's moving around you. Played through this one several years ago, but again, just the music in this was amazing. The gameplay was amazing. It's got that very iconic like opening to it where the machines are like walking up on that snowy mountain, and yeah, it was like just a very industrial style feel compared to the older ones that were more like knights and
Medieval type
medieval
of.
style. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Final Fantasy 6, I really loved. Had to put it in my top 10. Again, a lot of it because there was a lot of groundbreaking stuff with it. And for a Super Nintendo game, really kind of pushed the limits of what was capable on the Super NES at the time. But yeah, I was a big fan of Final Fantasy 6.
So I've never actually played through and beat 6. I've played it, the beginning part of it, like I said, very iconic, walking through the snow
Yeah.
with the mechs there and stuff. Played the beginning multiple times. So when it comes out on Steam for the remake, I may have to pick it up and give it a good honest try again.
I've heard like the updates on it are pretty good. Like it's not the big update like the new Trials of Mana package where it was like all 3D. It's just basically an update from the original and some little tweaks here and there, but looks pretty good. Yeah.
Very cool.
That. Yeah.
Great choice.
So, all right. So got through 10, got through 9. Number 8 for me. This is one I never would have played if it wasn't for my brother. He mentioned it to me 8 years ago, 9 years ago. I had just finished playing Final Fantasy VII, and you're like, "Oh, you know what game you need to check out? Legend of Dragoon. And I gotta say, I loved this game. One thing I thought was really, really amazing. So it came out on the PlayStation, came out in the year 2000. The similar styling to Final Fantasy VII, it was all 3D characters on pre-rendered backgrounds. But what I loved about this and intrigued me when you mentioned it to me is they have what's called QuickTime addition events, where basically as you attack somebody, it would have like
A
two,
hitbox.
yeah, like squares would converge over each other. You got to hit a button and you can do additional attacks. It just made it way more interactive, which I loved about it. And it just made you more involved. Like you didn't just like do attack and it sit there while it does whatever it's going to do. It actually like got you involved more with it, which is what I loved. So it was a pretty cool game. It had a pretty big budget at the time, it was like $16 million. Again, over 100 people working on it. I again played through this years ago, but I really liked it. I liked the graphics on it, how as you obtain these dragoon spirits, you got like wings and armor. It kind of when I'd play through it, it reminded me of the anime Ronin Warriors.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you just got these big kind of armor. I thought was really cool. So great game. I played through it. I loved it. That was number 8 on my list. I owe it all to Ken. Great recommendation. And,
You're welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So I gotta say, Legend of the Dragoon would have made it on my list, but I have never actually played through it.
You know, for those of us who don't know us, Ken has a very bad habit, not just with video games, TV shows, movies. He'll be like, oh, I saw this movie or I started watching this TV show. It's amazing. And I'll check it out. And next thing you know, I'm like 3 seasons in and I'll like say something. And he's like, oh, yeah, I just watched 1 episode of it. And I told him, you know what? Spartacus. You did that to me on Spartacus. You watched the final episode of the first season. You're like, this show is amazing. And I started watching it. I watched like 4 or 5 seasons of it. And I was like, oh, you're right. This is amazing. You're like, yeah, that was the only episode I ever saw. Yeah, that 1 episode. And there's been a lot of games too where you're like, oh, this game's amazing. You got to play it. And I'm like hours and hours in, kind of like Breath of the Wild, which you never finished, so it's definitely not on your list. You bugger.
Nope.
That's funny. Okay. Side note. Go on.
So number 8 on my list
Yeah.
is a game that but you actually mentioned.
Oh.
It's the remake of Trials of Mana. Love. I couldn't believe it when Nintendo announced. I take that back. May not have been Nintendo. May have been at PlayStation E3 like conference or PlayStation event.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever Trials of Mana was announced that they were doing a remake of like a full-blown remake, not a remaster, but a full-blown remake of Second Densetsu 3, which never came to America.
Yeah.
You and I always played it. We played English translations on emulators when we were kids, and I thought it was so cool. You could choose. You had 6 different characters, and you could choose 3 of them, and the storyline would be interwoven, with whatever 3 characters you chose as you went through. So played that a ton when we were kids on the emulator. So then to see that game get a full remake, treatment, I was blown away by it. So finally I played the demo, and after playing the demo, I was like, yeah, this is the real deal. This is gonna be fun. So picked it up for the Switch, played through it. I just thought that when it comes to remakes, they set the bar. I thought the combat was great, the spells, the characters, everything about it. They even added like 2 new like master like classes that you can like rank up to that weren't in the original game. Just a very fantastic RPG. Little bit on the easy side, but it still was just a really great playthrough. I know that you played through it as well. And you had it on. Was that an honorable mention?
No, it was on my list of top 20 that I had narrowed down.
Gotcha.
there is a reason I didn't have it on my list, but I'll get to it later on.
Okay.
But yeah, this great choice. Now, are you specifically saying just the game in general or just the remake?
The game in general.
Okay.
But if I had to choose which one to play, I would play the remake.
Yeah, this is one of the rare times Ken recommended a game that he actually played all the way through, because I got this on your recommendation as well, and I played through it last year, and it was great. I loved it. Yeah, I have no issues with being in the top 10. Great game.
But and just to clarify, I recommended it too, also because you played through the original game on the emulator so well, so you knew what the game was.
Yeah, I don't know if I actually played all the way through this one on the emulator. I think it was a part I kept getting stuck at.
I remember that. I think it was.
Yeah, someplace in the desert there was like this maze part that I kept getting lost on the walkthrough or something. But I did play all the way through it on the remake, and it was pretty dope. They did it, like you said, in terms of remakes. Yeah, they definitely set the standard going forward for like 16-bit era remakes into 3D. Yeah, nailed it.
Yeah,
nailed it.
Absolutely.
Good choice. So was that was your number 7, right?
Nope, that was my number 8.
8. Okay. Yeah,
so
you're on a 7.
So my number 7.
Yes.
Or what was your number 8?
Legend of Dragoon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so my number 7.
Yep.
Is a little known game called Elder Scrolls V Skyrim.
Ooh.
Great game. Huge. This was one of the reasons why I got an Xbox 360 when this game came out. Actually, I remember, so Dad and I were in Maine visiting Aunt Janet and Uncle Steve. Mm-hmm. And I remember that we were going to be there during the launch of Elder Scrolls V. So I already had it pre-ordered in New Hampshire. I actually called the GameStop, got my pre-order transferred up to the GameStop in Maine so I could pick it up in Maine and play Skyrim while we were in Maine visiting. And I just remember staying up really late at Aunt Janet and Uncle Steve's playing Skyrim and just being blown away. I had played a little bit of Elder Scrolls 4, Oblivion.
Was that also on 360?
Yes.
Okay, so I played that one a fair bit. That's the one I think you were playing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I knew 5 was coming out, so I never played through and beat 4, but I played it enough where I was like, wow, like I understand this game now. Like this is great. Saw new 5 was coming out, so I put 4 down just because I wanted to wait for 5, and was so glad that I did. It just, again, like kind of like I said about Fable, where when I like think of like fantasy RPGs, it's like Skyrim all of a sudden like it was like the new gold standard of open world fantasy RPGs. And of course, with the modding community now, there's been so many mods that have been made for the game and expanded the game and content. And it's just if you're just looking to get sucked into a open world fantasy RPG, Skyrim, the different builds, the different magic, that you can do, the different races, and it's just really, really great game.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, it was a huge launch for it. Like I said, I never played 5. I played a little bit of 4 when you had it. Just wasn't something I could get into. I think I had other stuff going on at the time, but I did play. It was an impressive game, especially graphically and like everything involved with it. But yeah, good choice for sure.
What's your number 7?
That was your 7, right?
Yeah.
All right, number 7 for me. So I mentioned why Trials of Mana wasn't in my top 10. It's because I had to pick Secret of Mana.
Knew it.
This game, I don't know what it was about it. I've played through it a couple times.
Oh, really?
Again, yeah. I definitely played through it more than once. Super Nintendo game, came out in 93, again by Square. They pretty much own RPGs. They just have this down to a science. The thing that made this one really impressive is it introduced like the real time battles. It wasn't like you ran into a bad guy and then went into a cutscene and then you had the back and forth, back and forth. You were literally like just find them on the open world and just start fighting, which is really really cool. It also introduced like co-op and multiplayer, so you could have
Mm,
2 or 3 people playing at the same time and controlling your characters. So you had Randy, who basically specialized in weapons, Prim, that was a healer, and Popoi, who did like magic attacks and defense. But you had tons of weapons. You had 8 different weapons. They were all upgradable throughout the game. And basically, you just run around. You'd rescue spirits known as elementals, and that would help you upgrade your magic. One thing I thought was pretty cool. So Square was definitely multitasking when they came out with these games because they were also working on Chrono Trigger at the same time. And there was a bunch of unused features from Chrono Trigger that they ended up working into Secret of Mana. It was originally intended to be part of the Final Fantasy series, and when they were first developing it, it actually had the code name Chrono Trigger before it got changed. Yeah.
oh wow.
So, like I said, this was supposed to be part of the Final Fantasy series called Chrono Trigger, but then they ended up splitting it off into its own. And it was also supposed to be a launch title for the CD add on for the Super Nintendo. But when Nintendo scrapped plans for that CD add-on, they said they cut up to 40% of the game was cut, and they were also supposed to have like multiple endings, just like Chrono Trigger. So they took
Gotcha.
that idea, spun it into Chrono Trigger. But yeah, I just love this game. It was so much fun. The characters, the real time battles was awesome. It was just very different than any RPG really at that time, and they just nailed it. I mean, this has to be in the top 10. It's such a great game. I loved it.
It is a great game. I've played it. I've never beaten it, but mainly because I was always a bigger fan of Secret. So second Densetsu 3 Trials of Mana, it was is this, a sequel to Secret of Mana.
Yeah.
So I was always a bigger fan of that, but it's a classic. It's an icon and a great choice. I knew that this would be on your list. I know that you really like this one a lot.
Yeah.
Did you know that they did a remake of this game for the
Yes.
PlayStation?
But this wasn't. Oh wait, yeah, they did a full. Did they do a full 3 day like Trials of Mana? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I did come across that when I was doing my research on this one coming up for this episode. I never played it, but I heard that was really good. That came out not too long ago, right? Just a couple years ago.
Yeah, probably a few years ago now. Yep.
Gotcha. Cool. All right.
Hit us with the number 6.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So this is one I as soon as I say it, Ken's gonna be like, I can't believe this is in your top 10. But again, these are our favorite RPGs.
Oh
And
man.
I don't know who's played this. Ken, do you have any idea what game I'm talking about?
I'm trying to rack my brain.
I've probably played through this game out of all the RPGs more than any other game on this list. I don't know why. I just love this game. And
I don't know. No.
so this game came out in 92, Japan only. It
I
never
knew
made
it.
its way over to the
Dragon
US.
Ball.
Yes, this is
I
Dragon
knew
Ball
it.
Z Super Saiyan Densetsu. It was a card-based RPG. I am such a big fan of Dragon Ball Z. When I found this emulator online, the first probably 2 or 3 times I played through it, only half the game was translated into English, and I had no idea what it was doing. But I'm like, oh, this card's got more stars on it. This one's gonna be stronger. Yeah, it basically follows through the Vegeta, Namekian, and Frieza saga from the anime, and it uses a card-based system for attacks and magic. It was an RPG with Dragon Ball Z. You can't go wrong. I love this game. It's my number 6 game. Again, huge fan. I've probably played through this 4 or 5 times. One thing I thought was interesting, it was actually a remake of 2 previous NES titles that I think the first one had just the Vegeta saga, and the second one had Namekian and Frieza. They basically combined them, updated the graphics, and put out this whole new one. But yeah, it was a remake from 2 previous NES titles that had the same type of card type gaming. If anybody's never played it, I highly recommend it. This game's amazing. It'll blow you away. or something like that.
That is hilarious. Actually, I remember. Well, I say it's a few years ago. It's probably 10 years ago now or something. But you were playing through this again, like you said, for probably the fourth time or so.
Yeah.
And you finally were like, Ken, I found another ROM of this, but it's fully translated this time. I actually know how to play this game now. And you knew like what the cards actually
Oh yeah.
meant and everything.
Yeah, I was
And
so
so
excited. Yeah, because the first couple times they were like, I think the first time they weren't even translated. Everything was in Japanese, and I'm just
right.
like
Yeah.
going around. I'm like, oh, I can figure this out. Like, just go around and attack this guy and pick a card. And then I found one that was like half translated, so some of the dialogue would be in English, some was in Japanese. And yeah, a few years back, I found a fully translated, and I played through it. It was
It's
awesome.
funny too, because I remember like us finding that ROM. I mean, back when we were kids, like
Yeah,
I remember playing that game on the emulator a long time ago, and yeah, that's one I actually forgot about. That is a great choice.
I
I'm glad I knew. I'm glad I was able to guess that.
I was like, if this was a listing of the top 10 best, this would be like number 50th or 60th or 160th on the list. But in terms of favorites, this almost made my top 5. Almost.
That is great. That is great. I'm very happy with that.
All right, go Ken. What's your number 6?
So my number 6 is Dark Souls 3.
Ooh, a nice
Now,
easy game.
yeah, nice and easy. Now, disclaimer: I would probably replace the Dark Souls franchise with Elden Ring, but I have not beat that yet. So I did not want to put it there because I have actually played through and beaten Dark Souls 3. So I played Dark Souls 2. I borrowed a friend's PlayStation 3 for a little bit, played Dark Souls 2, could not get into it. Played maybe 20 minutes. And then Dark Souls 3 came out a few years later. My buddy Tony, huge Dark Souls fan, and he was like, "Yo, you need to play Dark Souls 3. I'm gonna be playing it. You got to play it." So I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'll give it another shot." Absolutely fell in love with this game. I have said to you in different conversations over the years that I have felt that video games over the years have lost the epic boss fights. That boss fights have just been too easy. It's very anticlimactic, and by the time you get to the boss fight, it kind of falls flat. Well, Dark Souls 3 completely throws that out of the water. It is about, I mean, the game is tough, just the regular enemies, but you want to talk about epic boss fights. Dark Souls 3 has some epic boss fights, and just the Dark Souls series in general has a very gothic, medieval feel to it. But the weapons, the armor, the magic, there's PvP in there, so you can invade other people's worlds and actually fight against other people. It's a big community, just absolutely fantastic game. Fell in love with it. I just think it's a pinnacle. It's up there as best game, one of some of the best games out there. And like I said, Elden Ring is even better than Dark Souls 3, but Dark Souls 3 really blew me away. I feel like I've said that about blew me away. No, but Dark Souls 3 makes it 6 on my list.
Yeah, I've never played any of the Dark Soul games. Obviously, I know it's widely popular and an extremely difficult game. Yeah, that solid choice. Solid choice in your top 10 for sure. I like it.
What's your
Did you
number
get it?
6?
I did. That was my 6.
Oh, the Dragon Ball.
Yeah. You're on to 5.
Okay, so
Top 5. Hit
number
me.
5, Dragon Quest 11.
Ooh, this I haven't played yet. It's in my favorites list. You told me it was amazing. I will play this at some point.
And this is a game I recommended and have beat. So there we go. We're 2 for 2.
Wow.
Or maybe like 2 for 14, but who's counting?
Apparently I am.
Yeah. So Dragon Quest 11. So now my favorite Dragon Quest game before this was Dragon Warrior Dragon Quest 3. Love that. I had that for the Game Boy. That probably would have, if I hadn't played through Dragon Quest 11, Dragon Quest 3 would have been in this spot. But Dragon Quest 11, I played through probably about 4 years ago now when it came out for the PlayStation 4. If you're a Dragon Quest fan, obviously Akira Toriyama does, who's the creator of Dragon Ball Z. He does the artwork for all the Dragon Quest series.
Oh, they all look
it,
alike.
Yeah, so like the characters look very, they're very Toriyama looking. So again, just great game. The voice acting, the storyline, the gameplay. It's your traditional turn-based RPG, but it's such an iconic game franchise. It's almost like it's like Final Fantasy where it just the formula is so good that if it ain't broke, don't fix it, sort of thing.
Best saying ever. Yes. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, and
just give me more.
Pretty much. I mean, they actually. So this is a little fun fact that in Japan, I don't know if this is still the case, but they actually had to change the release dates of Dragon Quest games to make sure that they released on, I believe it was, I think Saturdays or Friday evenings.
People would call out from work. They'd
Exactly.
have mass people just not show up to work when there's release thing. I have heard that.
Yeah, to play Dragon Quest games because they're that popular in Japan, and honestly, then they're popular here. I mean, Dragon Quest 11, just like Final Fantasy has most recent Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy 15, actually numbered 15, but again, Dragon Quest 11. It's out for the Switch. I played on PS4, but there's a Switch version too, which, like you said, Taylor, it's on your list. Highly recommend playing it. It's not so much an open. It's not so much an open world. You have different landscapes that you go through, but you are sort of guided, but has great callbacks to older Dragon Quest games and just a great storyline, great action, great fights. Really, really great game.
How many of the Dragon Quest / Warrior games have you played through? Do you know?
So I have played through 3. I've played through Dragon Quest 3, Dragon Quest 7 for the PlayStation, or 8, or 9. I'm trying to think. It's the one where it's another really, really popular one.
Okay.
Dragon Quest. I think it was Dragon Quest 8 for the PlayStation 2, and then this one. So 3 I've actually played through.
That's cool. Yeah, I never ever played through any of them, which is surprising. I think it's because I jumped on to the Final Fantasy one so much.
You played Dragon Warrior 3 on the Game Boy Color that I had when we were kids. I'm not saying you beat it, but
okay, but I had played it.
Yeah, because like I said, I had it for the Game Boy.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which was it was originally Dragon. So in America it was
Dragon Quest.
Dragon Warrior, but then they finally went back to Dragon Quest.
Okay.
But
oh, that's right.
But so it originally, I think it originally was a regular NES game. Mm-hmm. But then they made a Super Nintendo version of Dragon Quest 3, and coming out, I'm not sure if it's this year or next year, they're actually doing a HD 2D version of Dragon Quest 3.
Your favorite.
I know. So I am really, really excited for that. Oh, and the really cool thing, real quick, now that I think of it, of Dragon Quest 11 is they actually... you can choose to either play Dragon Quest 11 as the full 3D game, or as 16-bit sprites, as a classic style.
Oh, that's cool.
It's the same game. It's Dragon Quest 11, but as the old school Super Nintendo graphics.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Dope-alicious. I like it.
So that's my number 5. What's yours?
5. All right. This is the first game on the list that's on your list. I'm going to cheat here a little bit. Golden Sun 1 and 2.
Oh.
So, again, I played through all of 1. I started 2, but I never played all the way through it. Again, I know you already touched on it. This whole series was amazing. The first one came out in 2001. Second one came out in 2003. The company made it, Camelot Software Planning. They originally did a series on the Sega system, Shining Force 1, 2, and 3, and I think they had some other ones. I played through quite a bit of the first one of Shining Force. Pretty good game. One thing I thought was interesting, I didn't know. Did you know Golden Sun 1 and 2 was originally set as a single game for the N64?
No, I did not.
Yes, that's why it was split into two. It was originally planned as a single game, and then, but by the time it was coming out, it was towards the end of the N64's life. So they decided, Nintendo reached out to them and said, "Hey, let's split this, move it over." Or they said, "Let's move it to the Game Boy," and then they decided to split it into two games because of how big it was. Uh, yeah, super cool game. One thing I really liked about these is most RPGs you can't really use magic outside of battle. Some of them allow you to use healing. This one, there was a lot of puzzle bases to this, kind of a la like Legend of Zelda. And you
Sure.
can actually use magic outside of battles to help you get through these puzzles. So that was something I thought was really, really cool. And the other thing that's interesting too, and they actually took what they did in Shining Force 3, apparently. So in the first one of Golden Sun, you're the antagonist. Number 2 takes place where the first one ends, but you're the protagonist. So you actually play as the people you're going against in the second one, and then they eventually come together as a team and keep going. I just thought it was really cool because I remember playing it years ago, and I was very confused because I didn't realize at the time that I'm now playing as the bad guys from their point of view, and you're playing against the good guys. But it's pretty cool. You use a link cable, and you can actually transfer character and items from the first one to the second one. Yeah, I just like you said, this is one that you turned me on to, and I loved it. I just loved the graphics for a Super Nintendo for a Game Boy Advance game. I thought was really really impressive at the time, and I just love the Jin setup. There was dozens, and I think I read there was 72
Hmm.
Jins total throughout the game that you can get that would help you with these battles. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that is, and like you said, with the that is news to me about the whole Nintendo 64 thing. Only because I think I could be wrong, but I personally believe that the Nintendo 64 had a lack of RPGs. And
Yeah.
could you imagine if this game came out
Oh
early
yeah.
in, or at least earlier in the Nintendo 64 life cycle? I mean Golden Sun is a big hit, and for the Game Boy. But if it came out on the N64, I think that would have really propelled the game into a much larger franchise than what we have today.
Yeah. I love it. Like I said, there's a third one that came out a few years later. I have not played that one, but I still
I think
gotta.
that's for the DS, I
Yeah.
believe.
This is one I actually posted this on our Instagram page like a week or so ago. I would love a remake of Golden Sun 1 and 2. If that came to the Switch,
Ooh,
or
if
Switch
they
ends up adding Game Boy games to their online services, this has to be part of their system. I would
if
love
this
a
got the
remake of
Trials
this.
of Mana remake,
Yeah,
if they got the Trials of Mana,
treatment.
feature, yeah, treatment, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, Golden Sun, highly recommend it. Pretty sweet. That's number 5 on my list. Number 4, I will be interested to see if a different game in this series is in your top 4.
Okay.
For me, number 4, Pokemon Yellow.
Ah,
I this similar to the Dragon Ball Z game. I've actually played through this one several times as well. I don't know what it was. I grew up. I was, let's see when did it come out. I was maybe early teens, 12, 13 when the first gen came out. After that, it just started getting really complicated for me. I did play through the second generation of Gold and Silver, but I just loved Yellow because it combined all the things I loved about Red and Blue and a lot of the Pokemon, but also followed along with the storyline from the anime. So this one came out in '99. It was basically just an enhanced version of Red and Blue, added a bunch of stuff. I just love this. I don't know why. It's just one of those things that sticks with me. One thing I thought was cool that I found out is, so obviously they kind of have this pattern of two colors, and they have like a single color that kind of joins them together. After that, you had gold and silver, and then what was it that put those two together? The
Crystal.
crystal. and so on and so on. In the coding for Pokemon Yellow, there's a build for Pokemon Pink, and there's speculation that it was actually a companion title for that before they decided just to do like a single companion. And they suspect either Jigglypuff or Clefairy would have been kind of like your companion Pokemon. Yeah, but I thought that was interesting. I never knew that, but I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, Pokemon Yellow, I've played through this several times as well, and it's number 4.
Great pick.
Yep.
I remember getting and again, this is one of those things where it's like, if only I had never opened it, it would have kept it. I remember getting the Pokemon Yellow Special Pikachu Edition Game Boy Color. Mom and Dad, Mom and Dad got that for me for Christmas way back in the day when it came out, and that was just I wish I knew what happened to it and where it was, but
you moron! How did you not keep that wrapped up and never open it?
I know.
I actually saw something just the other day about the Pokemon Yellow Game Boy version, and the first thing I thought of was, "Wow, whoever got that and didn't open it would be super smart." I didn't realize you had one.
Oh, you really saw like something on that?
Well, I just saw something about the Pokemon Yellow like Pikachu Edition Game Boy. I'm like, I like forgot all about it, and I didn't realize you had one.
Yeah. So I had that. I know. Yeah. So Yellow was a great game. Great choice of Pokemon.
I just liked like all the additional elements to it from the original playthrough of like Red and Blue.
Well, it's great that you could get all the starters through, without having to trade.
I'm very much a collectionist, completionist type player. And so it always bugged me about Pokemon that I couldn't catch them all.
Without friends.
Yeah, those are friends. I mean, not that you could catch them all in Yellow, but you could catch a lot more.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah. So, number 4. What do you got, broski?
So, number 4, I know that this one is on your list, probably coming up real quick, but I have Mass Effect at number 4.
Number 4.
Now you're probably thinking to yourself, what is 3, 2, and 1?
I know what one of those is. I can almost guarantee it. I don't know what place it's at, but I know there's gotta. If it's not on your list, I will disown you as a brother.
Yeah, no.
Anyways, keep going, Mass Effect.
Don't worry. We're brothers.
Okay.
But number 4, Mass Effect. Where do I start? I mean, this blew me away as the scope. Like we talked about it a little bit, I think last week. But like you said, that moment when you walk out into the Citadel and the massive, expansive, the spaceship, you're just like, whoa, I am in Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, like space.
Babylon 5.
Oh yeah, space fantasy at its finest. And it was like, I just have Mass Effect down. I mean, obviously, if I had to choose one of them, it'd probably be 3, just because it has the most polish and gameplay and stuff. But Mass Effect, you really can just take as a whole, right?
Yeah,
as 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, exactly. Mass Effect is the whole 1, 2, and 3. And I just from all the it harkens back to games where you could have multiple endings, but with this one you could choose how you wanted to play your character, whether you wanted to be good or bad, if you wanted to punch a news reporter in the face, or if you wanted to sleep with an alien or sleep with a human. It just I love like any great RPG, you have the cast of characters, right, and party members, and they were able to flesh out party members so well. And someone like you, and most people who play RPGs where you need to talk to everyone, you had a lot of people to talk to. But the gameplay with the gunplay, it's a third person shooter, over the shoulder shooter. It just worked, and the scope of the game was so grand. Like, for instance, like Fable 1, Fable 2, and Fable 3 had such lofty and grand ideas for the game but ultimately I think fell short. Whereas Mass Effect had these grand ideas as well, and I think ultimately hit. I mean, I know with the third game at the end, it's like all these little things that you did in one and two, they did pay off, and like
Yeah.
but I thought for the time period, for the scope of things, I thought that it they did a as good of a job as anyone could.
Hmm. Yeah, this may be coming up later in my list as well. So I don't want to say too much about it. But yeah, Mass Effect as a whole was just amazing. Uh Everything you just said and more was pretty incredible about it. And yeah, I think the first one I had over 60 hours of play into it. So remember I played through it. I'm one of those people I like to play through things on hard, and then I like went back through and got like a bunch of other achievements on easy, and it was so as much as I enjoyed the first one, it was so much fun playing through on easy after I'd already played through hard because you could just plow through shit. I just love playing it so much. It was a great one.
I
And
think
then
because I
yeah,
believe they had a new game plus mode, right? So you could go back through from the beginning with everything that you had previously unlocked.
I think so, but because like there was on the 360 there were some achievements, but you could only like get them like on easy or hard. So I'm like, well, I might as well play through it on easy. I think I had like 40 hours into the hard and like 20 hours into the easy. Still just plowed right through it. Yeah,
Gotcha.
it was yeah, and they just got better and better with each version. Great choice in top four.
Thank you.
Highly support it.
So where are we
Okay,
next?
three. You're on to three.
Okay, so this was something that I had to look up because I didn't know if this would classify as an RPG or not.
Oh, geez, here we go.
And I came down to the conclusion that it does. So,
Well, obviously, if it's your number three, you're like, this game does not fit the mold, but it's my number three, Super Mario Brothers. Oh, go on.
so this is a game that you have not been able to get into, nor have you really given it a fair try, which one day you will and will love it and it will click. But I have Monster Hunter, specifically Monster Hunter World at number three.
That's the newest one. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
the newest one for the main for like the
main
main consoles.
okay.
Monster Hunter Rise came out for the Switch, so and technically that's the newest one. But
Yeah, but World, that's the one you got me to download the demo for, right?
nope, that was Rise.
Just kidding. Go on.
So Monster Hunter World. So my first Monster Hunter experience was with Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate for the 3DS, and that's what got me into Monster Hunter. Um, Again, my buddy Tony was a big Monster Hunter fan, and I'm petting my cat. So
I'm like, are you purring over there? He's like, I love Monster Hunter so much.
So does Jinxie. Say hi to the camera, Jinx.
I was like, is he purring? Wow, he must really like Monster Hunter.
I do. So anyway, yeah.
Anyways,
So played Monster Hunter 4 for the 3DS, and then when World came out, it just elevated the game to the next level. Up a huge, graphic overhaul.
Yeah.
Not really so much necessarily a gameplay overhaul because the whole rinse and repeat of slay giant monsters, carve monster parts, create better weapons and armor from the monsters you slay.
Yeah.
I love the difficulty curve in the game. I love that it's a game that you may not beat a monster, but you gain knowledge as far as how the monster is going to fight, how the monster reacts. You learn different tells and signs like, okay, the monster just roared. Now it's going to do like a spinning tail attack. I got to dodge it this time. And there's 12 or 13 different weapons as far as, you have the switch axe, you have a bow, you have a great sword, you have a long sword, you have the sword and shield, and each weapon plays differently. And so depending on like what kind of play style you like, you can craft the different weapons, and there's just so much involved with the game. I fell in love, and the cycle of like fighting a monster, building its armor, and the skills involved with like the different armor and the mix and matching of armor pieces. Um, I just love that it's a game that you really can sink your teeth in and improve, like improve your gameplay. And just because you failed, you can actually feel yourself becoming a better player at the game, which I thought was a really cool aspect. And just it's just a really great game. Really excited.
I guess kind of goes along what you talked about with if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of thing.
Yeah, right. And so they really just have improved with each generation of Monster Hunter going forward. So that takes my top 3 spot.
Top 3. All right, fair enough. Number 3 for me. Another game I've played through at least 2 or 3 times was in your honorable mentions. Super Mario RPG. Not much.
That's your number 3.
That's my number 3.
Wow.
My 1, 2, and 3 I nailed down pretty quickly. 4 through 10 was tough. 1, 2, and 3, yeah. I flip flopped between 2 and 3 a couple of times, but yeah, I just again, we've talked about this a couple of times already on our podcast, so I'm not going to really go into it. Again, it was kind of the last Square game that they made for the NES. Them and Nintendo joined together. It was the last one in Square's contract with them, and they just kind of pulled out all the stops. Pretty much everything that made their other RPGs great, they threw into this and added in Super Mario. I love how it's just a fun game to play. I can pick it up and play it tomorrow and just like have a blast with it. I just love the characters, love the storyline, the weapons you can get. It's a damn near perfect game for me.
It is a great game. That's why it had to at least be in my honorable mentions. For me, I'm more of a fantasy sort of guy, so that's probably why it stays out of my top 10. Because when it comes to RPGs, that old school medieval Dungeons and Dragons type feel is more up my alley. But still, when it comes to RPGs, totally understandable that it would be in your top, because it is a fantastic RPG.
Well, Ken, if medieval fantasies are your thing, number 2 on my list is definitely for you. Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
This again.
Chrono Trigger's number 2?
Number 2. What can't be said about Chrono Trigger that we haven't already talked about?
So real quick, only because it's also my number 2.
What?
So this is finally a game. So this is great. We did not know each other's list before.
Yeah.
And at first, like when we first started, like had this idea of doing this, we're like, oh, I wonder like how many games like we'll actually have like on the same list in different
5
spots.
Would be the same, but we've been very off.
Yeah, this has been great. But yeah, Chrono Trigger 2. Okay, go on.
So, now I'm interested to know what your number 1 is, but we'll get to that. Chrono Trigger. I mean, this game's amazing. They literally, when they were making this game, Square had a list that said Dream Team designers. Hironobu Sakaguchi, creator of Final Fantasy. Check. Yuji Horii, creator of Dragon Quest. Check. And then Akira Toriyama, character designer for Dragon Quest and Dragon Ball Z. Check. I mean, these 3, I mean, you don't get any bigger than this when it comes to RPGs in the industry. The 3 of these teamed up and said, we're going to make, quite possibly at the time, and for many, many years, the greatest RPG ever made. Not just one of my favorites, but again, one of the greatest RPGs ever made. It was just praised for its character development. They had 12 endings to this game. A remake that came out later added another ending to it. The side quests were amazing. The graphics, just diving into all these characters was pretty amazing. And again, I touched on it earlier. This was actually planned as part of the Secret of Mana franchise and for the disk drive system. But that scrapped, and they decided just to make this their own. One thing I thought was interesting, like the lighting effects in the game, they were cited as looking at Ridley Scott, who had made Alien. They liked the lighting effects in the movie, and that's where they got a lot of the ideas for the lighting effects for this. And one thing I thought was also cool, the original storyline, when they laid this out, Chrono was supposed to die, and then they were going to find an earlier version of him to rejoin the team as part of the time travel. which I
That's
didn't
pretty
know.
cool.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, because obviously, well, we won't say anything, but don't want to give out any too big spoilers here. But
Okay, Ken, this game came out 27 years ago.
yeah, but
See, 27 years ago this month. I'm pretty sure if you've never played Chrono Trigger, you should pick it up. It's an okay, decent game. That
it
game's amazing.
is
I just what it's
the
number 2 on your list.
characters.
What do you love about it?
Yeah, so like the characters, the combat, even though it's turn-based,
Mhm.
I absolutely loved the tech system and how, depending on the composition of your person, so you have what you can have a total of, I think it's like 6 characters throughout the game that you can be in your party, but in a battle you can only have 3 at a given
You
time.
can join them together.
Yeah, and so depending on what 3 are in your party, you can either have what they call dual techs, where they have 2 of the characters, and then triple techs, where all 3 of the characters can do a special move. And like I said, depending on who's in your party, I thought that was really cool.
That's really cool. Yeah,
I loved how each character kind of had like their own weapon line that they could just the magic in it, but again, the environments. And you didn't even bring up, I'm not sure off the top of my head the name, but the composer for the music.
Yeah,
to me, Chrono Trigger has some of the most iconic music, and actually there's an orchestral remaster of all of the Chrono Trigger songs, the Chrono Trigger soundtrack, that to this day I will put on 600 AD Wind Song, or Wind, I think it's Wind Scene actually is the name of the song, from when you first go to, or not when you first go, but the music that plays on the overworld map in 600 AD.
Yeah.
It's just such an iconic game. I remember, I have vivid memories from when I was a kid. So we never owned Chrono Trigger. We played it. We played it on ROM and emulators. But our cousins, Matt and Steven, had Chrono Trigger, and I remember being a kid and watching. Frogs, whose name is really Glenn. His ultimate attack is like this giant, like rainbow, like frog comes down and like slams on like all the enemies. Yeah. I remember seeing that as a kid and just like, whoa, what the heck is that? And Chrono Trigger has, out of all these games on the list, Chrono Trigger is the one game that I have played through the most amount of times. There was a many year stretch where I would play through Chrono Trigger. It was like that, like yearly, like, okay, it's this time of the year again. Like, haven't played Chrono Trigger in a year. Time to play through it. Like, just love the game that much. Love the storyline. Yeah, fantastic. Great game.
Yeah, it's my number 2. It's number 2. Now I'm interested to see what your number 1 is. This should, I thought for sure Chrono Trigger is going to be your number 1.
So it almost was, and you ask me again tomorrow, and it very well may be. These two are so interchangeable, but in my heart and soul, I had to go with a Pokemon game, because
I knew it, when I mentioned yellow, I was like, Gold and Silver is a Gold and Silver.
So it is, but it's Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Yeah.
It is the remakes of Gold and Silver, because when it comes to Pokemon, they've now done remakes. They've done remakes of Red and Blue, with Fire Red and Leaf Green. They've done remakes of Gold and Silver with Heart Gold, Soul Silver. They've done remakes of Ruby and Sapphire, and they've now done remakes of Diamond and Pearl. But out of all the remakes aside, I would still pick Gold and Silver. But with the remakes in there, the remakes of Gold and Silver, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Generation 2 of Pokemon is, I thought, was, and to this day, still the pinnacle of Pokemon games, because it was pretty much a sequel to it. It took place a few years after the storyline of the original Pokemon games, and you played a new main character in a new generation. And so what I love about this is, right, so you become the champion, right, in the first game, and the end of the second game, ends with you facing yourself,
From the
facing the
first one.
character from the first game. And so, what's better than becoming the champion? Beating the champion. And so it just I remember as a kid, and this is such a nostalgic thing for me is, of course, being a kid who was with Pokemon from day one when it really came out in America, to playing the crap out of that, to hearing about generation 2, and it was like, oh, wait, there's gonna be new Pokemon, there's more things.
Mhm.
I remember it released in the fall, as generally most Pokemon games do. They release usually around October, November. Going up to the KB Toy Works after school, and I had pre-ordered Pokemon Gold, and going and picking Pokemon Gold up, and just coming home and playing Pokemon Gold on my special Pikachu Yellow Edition Game Boy. And the fact that it was on Game Boy Color now, it wasn't just like, green or
Yeah.
yellow.
Gray.
Yes.
Grayscale.
So having color, having just the new Pokemon, and then being able, like, being on the new continent, and then beating the 8 gyms and going back to the original content on Kanto,
Mhm.
it just blew me away. And it's such a fantastic memory that I have. And I love Pokemon in general, the franchise. I love the competitive aspect of battling other people. I love the strategy that's always been involved with it, as well as just the general storyline of playing through the game. I mean, what 10-year-old kid doesn't want to go out on an adventure with your Pokemon off to become the champion? I mean, just such an iconic, easy to follow storyline, but
Mhm.
just so original too, just with the game design. Fantastic RPG, has to take my top spot as my favorite RPG of all time.
So when you beat the end of Gold and Silver and you go back to Kanto, does it let you? I can't remember. Does it let you play through all 8 original gyms from the
Yep,
first one?
yep.
Okay. And then
So you
what?
so you end up getting 16 badges.
Gotcha. And then what change do they make with Crystal between Gold and Silver?
So Crystal added they added are you familiar with the 3 legendary dogs?
Yeah.
Raikou, Suicune, and Entei.
Yeah.
So Suicune, the ice legendary dog, plays more of a prominent role in Crystal. It's Crystal's mascot. He's the mascot
Gotcha.
Pokemon of Crystal. Um, and so there's just like a little added storylines. Actually, in Crystal, like the Pokemon sprites, this was the first time where Pokemon sprites actually moved.
Oh, gotcha.
So that was like a whoa,
Big
crazy
thing.
feature when that first
So
came
is
out.
it similar to Yellow? Like, does it have you start with a particular Pokemon, or do you still just get to pick a 3 starter?
Just Yeah, you just pick one of the original starters.
And then when they did the remakes for, what was that, Heart?
Heart Gold, Soul Silver.
So what changes to make with those remakes?
So with the remakes, whatever Pokemon was in your first slot. So
Hmm.
for those of you who don't know, you can have up to 6 Pokemon on your team, and then all the other ones you catch, you can put in your PC and pull
Yeah.
them out and change your team. So whatever Pokemon was in your first slot, they actually followed behind you, the
Like in
sprite,
Yellow with
like
Pikachu?
in yeah,
Okay.
like in Yellow. So that was a really cool feature. And then also with the remakes, Pokemon, when it went from Gen 3 to Gen 4, they did they redid the physical and special move splits.
Okay.
So, and the remakes of Heart Gold and Soul Silver, they used the new physical and special move splits.
What
So
system was those remakes on? Was it
the Nintendo DS.
the DS? Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. And on the same thing, like with the originals, where like once you beat it, you go back through Kanto and all that.
exactly. Yes.
Mm, cool. Okay.
So
See,
highly
that's
recommend checking that out.
where they started to lose me. It got a little too complicated. Once I got into like male and female and hatching and all this stuff, I'm like,
Oh,
oh
the
my
breeding,
goodness.
yeah.
Oh, breeding. It just made my head hurt. Shiny and not shiny and unshiny.
Yep, they added all that, yeah, in
Oh,
Generation 2. So
Too much.
without further ado, Taylor, I
Yeah.
already know what it's going to be since I
Yep.
haven't heard you say it yet.
Yep.
What is your number 1?
Number 1, Mass Effect. I was struggling between this and Chrono Trigger. Again, Chrono Trigger is such a nostalgia game. I played through it a bunch. It's, in terms of gameplay and story, it's damn near perfect. But again, like you had mentioned with yours, I remember, again, I came home from baseball. You're like, hey, I've been playing this game, Mass Effect. You got to check it out. I'm like, all right, yeah, whatever, cool. And I beat, like, it just throws you right into the action. You're on that outpost. You get through it, and then you get to the Citadel. And I was just literally, I've never had a game blow me away like this. You walk into the Citadel, and you're like, they have put so much time into this game. And it wasn't just like you could see a lot and just be like, oh, that's cool. But there's so much stuff you could do and like places you could go. It was just a massive game, I felt like. And it just blew me away. Again, so just to recap a little bit, first one came out November of 07. Second one came out January of 2012. I'm sorry, 2010. Was it 2012? And the third one came out in March 2 years later, I believe. If I have those dates correct. Basically combined like a real-time third-person shooter with tactical RPG elements, which again was super cool. I just love being able to jump in between those kind of gameplay styles. It took me a little bit to adjust to using like your abilities with the shooting effects. It wasn't really till I got into the second one that I really started to use like being able to send people for cover or like blasting people with your energy or like grabbing people and throwing them. That it seemed a little tricky in the first one to be able to combine those elements on the fly, but they made it way more like user friendly in the second and third one for sure.
They absolutely did.
It was, and again, just the fact that they planned all three of these games out ahead of time, where things you do in the first one would affect aspects of the second one and the third one. I just thought that was such a creative idea. I hadn't really seen that before, other than in Golden Sun, which was pretty cool. And then just their Paragon and Renegade system where, yeah, like when you talk to somebody, there are certain things you could pick that would just progress the story, but there are certain things you could do that would increase or decrease those items. And one thing I thought was funny,
dialogue options.
The dialogue options. I read somewhere, I heard somebody say, like, one of the designers of the game, they put so many hours and hours of time into developing these, and they actually were able to track, and it was something like 89% of people picked the Paragon route. They were so pissed because they're like, we spent all this time making this dialogue for Renegade, and almost nobody picked it. It was just amazing. I read they had over 20,000 lines of dialogue throughout the game. They said it was equal to 20 movies and 4 to 5 full novels. It was just amazing. So
didn't you go Renegade?
I always wanted to because I felt bad. I'm like, wow, I thought about it like before I ever read that stat. And I was like, somebody put all this time into these Renegades. But then I always end up going Paragon, it seemed like most of the time, because I was a nice guy and I hated punching reporters in the face. There were a bunch of times where like I would save it, do a dialogue, and like pick Renegade to see what would happen. And I'd be like, oh my god, he punched this poor woman. Go back, Paragon, I'll pick Paragon. It's just a game that was just so massive. I just loved everything about it. I thought it was great. All the characters that you could add to your team. I mean, number 2 at the end when you had that suicide mission and you said all these characters. Favorite character, hands down, Garrus. I thought he was pretty sweet. And then I loved Rex, the Krogan. He was pretty cool as well. But loved Garrus.
The whole aspect of the suicide mission there at the end of 2 and the actual permadeath of like
characters.
Like if this character dies, he ain't coming back in Mass Effect 3.
I know.
That had such a level of anxiety, to it, where okay, if I don't choose to send this character, the right character to do this, or these different things, I could lose someone. Yeah, that it actually held some weight.
It did. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. It's my number one. It's very tight toss up with Chrono Trigger for sure. Um, Again, story wise, I probably like Chrono Trigger more, but in terms of like overall gaming and just the graphics, how involved you are with the world, it's gonna be Mass Effect for me. Number one. Final answer.
Boom.
Bing.
Well,
So
that is a great list. I'm shocked with how different our lists ended up
me
being.
too. Me too.
This was a really really fun one. I know you and I were both really looking forward to recording this one.
Yeah. There's definitely a couple of games you mentioned that I like forgot about, that I like. The Fable series, that was always one that I started and I wanted to dive into more. And I'll probably pick up. I played through the second gen Pokemon, but I didn't realize that they even had. I forgot that they had like the remakes of them as well. So I might play through those at some point. Um, yeah, I liked your list. Great list. Yeah.
Thank you. Likewise. Yeah, you inspired me to go back and maybe play through the Dragon Ball Z. Find the English version of that and actually play through that. I
And
do
the
like
other one,
how in that one
yeah,
you can unlock Super Saiyan Vegeta as a special boss at the end
and
of.
yeah, the first couple times I played through it, I didn't realize the strategy for all of it. And like when the Vegeta and Nappa first get there, it's kind of like suicide mission. If
Oh, that's
some of
right.
the characters die, you can get them, but they're way later on. If you make it through that event with them, they come with you to Namek, and it just gives you like a way better chance of winning because you have them. You don't just have Gohan and Krillin on that trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I and Golden Sun 1 and 2. That's one I never got to finish the second one. Please, for the love of God, let there be a remake of that game. It would be probably the first game I'd pick up.
Would love that. Would love to see it get a. If it doesn't get the full Trials of Mana treatment, give it the 2D, 2D, 3D, no HD,
HD
2D.
2D.
And not to just give every game that treatment, but I'd love to see Chrono Trigger get a
Oh my
2D
God.
HD 2D
Or could you
treatment as
imagine a
well.
full 3D of Chrono Trigger? I mean, they had
Wait,
Chrono Cross, which was that was almost in my honorable mentions, but I never finished Chrono Cross. So
it's on the Switch.
it's coming out. I'm excited for that remaster for sure.
So
Wow. This has been our biggest one yet, Ken.
where are we at?
Yeah. Almost 2 hours.
Wow.
Killing it. This is by far my favorite one to do. I'm super excited for next week. We are going to be jumping into Hidden Gems next week. I'm super excited. There's a bunch of games that Ken and I have played over the years, which were like, oh, this is an awesome game. I never hear anybody talk about it. So we got a pretty good list coming up for next week as well that I'm super excited to jump into. But definitely top 10 RPG. We'll probably do some more top 10s coming up here in the future. But I figured we'd kick it off with the RPGs.
Yeah, that was a
Rocket propelled
fantastic idea.
grenades.
I love them all the time. We stand with
So-
Ukraine.
What?
What?
What'd you say?
I said we stand with Ukraine.
We do. Absolutely. Putin, what are you doing? Please don't bomb my house.
But yeah, gaming wise, RPG fans, probably our favorite type of games. So we thought it was fitting.
Yeah, RPG platformer. I like a lot of like old school platformers. I told Ken this. I just picked up because it was on sale for Mario Day. Happy Mario Day to everyone from last week. They had on sale 3D Super Mario 3D World with Bowser's Fury. I am already on the third level, I guess you'd say, of Super Mario 3D World. Love it. Probably one of my favorite Mario games so far.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're liking it. I'll have to try that out myself.
You should, because you said you like those old school. It was like all the best elements of Super Mario 64 combined with like platformers.
Really good to hear.
Yeah. So, well, until next time.
Hit us up on all our social medias. We're gonna be coming out hopefully soon with YouTube videos
Yes.
in a YouTube channel. So be on the lookout for that. We will make an announcement when we have that up and running.
Mhm.
So
Hopefully within the next month, I'm hoping we'll have a YouTube channel going. We're super excited for that, and we'll be adding video at some point to it as well.
yep. So thank you everyone for listening and for your support
The
and continuing to
millions
and millions.
of
So yeah,
listeners out there. Yeah, thank you everyone again. The Weird Brothers Podcast at gmail.com. We're on Instagram and Twitter as well. Find us.
yep. Come and join us, and yeah, send us emails. Tell us how you're feeling, how you're thinking. It
Come
takes us
and
time to
knock on our
sort through all
door.
the emails that we get, but
I
we'll
know.
get to it.
We do. Yeah, if you haven't heard from us, it's because we're busy getting through the millions of emails we have coming through.
Because we would love to do a segment of community emails,
Yes.
whether it's you're just trashing us out, which would be hilarious. We'd read those. Whatever it is,
Maybe.
we'd love to read the community emails. So
Yeah, I'm only gonna read the ones that trash Ken.
that's fine.
I'll be like, oh Ken, we got another one that hates you. They're like, oh, do you have any that hate you? I got like a pile stacked over here. I'm like, nope.
Haven't read a one.
Right into the fire pit. Anyway.
Not in my chimney. The whole house will go up.
Ken's recording from across the street. I'm like, oh, where are you coming at?
Coming at you live from across the street where
Fire
my house
department's
is.
over here putting out a fire. You're like, don't put it out too quickly. I got fire insurance.
That's true.
Let that sucker burn to the ground. Anyways, yeah. All right.
Not committing insurance fraud.
Not committing insurance fraud. All right, little Broboski.
All right, big Broboski.
That's right. All right, you have a great week. We'll see you soon.
Talk you as well. Yep, and we will be back at our normal time next week.
Same bat channel, same bat time.
No. Same what? Bro channel, same bro time. We don't want to get copyright from Batman.
Adam West is gonna come sue us.
Exactly.
Tragically no longer with us. Rest in peace, Adam West.
So terrible joke. Too soon. Too soon. Rob Patterson. Patterson is gonna come.
Pat Patterson.
Patterson. Anyway.
Too.
Oh God. Enough with the dying.
All right. Anyways.
Well, till next time.
Same bro channel. Same bro time.
We're brothers.
We're brothers. Hey, Jinx. Adios.